Ready to dive into the life of a real icon? We're talking Kris Kristofferson.
Oh, yeah.
And I know, you might be thinking me and Bobby McGee,
For sure, for sure.
and that's it, right?
Right.
But trust me, this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're about to uncover a life story that's way more interesting than just one-hit wonder. You've given us some pieces on his recent passing, but you're clearly craving the bigger picture,
Yeah,
and rightfully so.
absolutely. He's one of those figures who managed to be like a household name, but somehow still kind of enigmatic.
Right.
It's easy to stay on the surface, but his story, it deserves a deeper look, for sure.
Exactly. So today, let's dive into those unexpected layers. The Rhodes Scholar turned songwriter, the military man who embraced, like, counterculture, the boxer who became a poet with a guitar. Buckle up, because this is Kris Kristofferson, as you've probably never encountered him before.
What's remarkable is how his early life almost reads like a blueprint for all these contradictions he would later embody.
Hmm.
I mean, military brat, Rhodes Scholar, Golden Gloves boxer, those aren't exactly experiences you usually find on the same resume,
Right.
let alone alongside, like, country music legend.
Right. It's like he was destined to, like, defy categorization from the get-go.
Yeah.
You have to wonder if maybe those early experiences, as different as they seem, like, somehow fueled his artistic fire.
I
The
know.
discipline of the military, the intellectualism of Oxford, the raw energy of the boxing ring, maybe it all went into the mix.
It's an interesting thought. And let's not forget, this is someone who wrote his first song at 11 years old, I Hate Your Ugly Face. Talk about an early indicator of a future wordsmith.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he had this innate need to express himself, to channel life's experiences into art.
It makes you wonder, was he always drawn to this more unconventional path, even back then? Or was it something he discovered along the way?
It's hard to say for sure, but it's clear that he wasn't afraid to shake things up. And perhaps that's what led him to 1960s Nashville, a city buzzing with creativity, a haven for artists like Kristofferson seeking a different kind of life.
The stories from that era are legendary. The sources you provided describe it as this melting pot of musical talent, a place where traditional country collided with, like, rock and roll and folk. And it was in this electric atmosphere that Kristofferson, after leaving a life most would envy, found his true calling.
And even within that world, he was a bit of an outlier. He once described Nashville as a lifeboat, a place that staved him.
Mm.
I think that speaks volumes about his mindset at the time, a sense of searching, of needing something more than the path that had been laid out for him.
And speaking of outliers, we can't forget the most legendary Kris Kristofferson story of all. Landing a helicopter on Johnny Cash's lawn to pitch his songs.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, come on. Is that even true? It sounds too good to be true.
Even Cash himself swore it was true. Apparently, Kristofferson stepped out, tape in one hand, beer in the other. That's an image. It's
Wow.
it's a testament to his audacity, to that unwavering belief in himself and his music.
It's such a perfect encapsulation of his spirit, bold, unconventional, and impossible to ignore. You can't help but be drawn to that kind of energy.
And it was just the helicopter stunt, that grabbed attention.
Right.
His songs, they were something truly different.
Right.
Take Sunday Morning Coming Down. A track some folks might not even realize is pure Kristofferson.
It's funny you mentioned that one because I was just thinking about it. It perfectly embodies what our sources describe as Kristofferson's literary songwriting.
Right.
But what does that even mean, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. It's more than just like catchy melodies, right? It's the way he uses words to create these incredibly vivid scenes, these snapshots of life that stay with you long after the song is over.
For those who haven't heard it, and you really should, it's worth a listen. He sets the scene with lines like, well, I woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head that didn't hurt, and the beer I had for breakfast wasn't bad, so I had one more for dessert. I mean, that's poetry right there.
Isn't it? It's gritty, it's real, and it's full of this raw honesty that just draws you in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what resonated so deeply with listeners. These weren't just songs about love and heartbreak. They were stories about the human experience, about loneliness, regret, the search for redemption.
And he never shied away from the darker side of things, did he?
But even with that emotional depth, his range is incredible. I mean, this is the same guy who wrote "Help Me Make It Through the Night," which is a completely different vibe. From heartache to desire, he seemed to tap into it all.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
and that brings us to another facet of his persona.
Yeah.
The unexpected heartthrob.
Right. Our sources call him a rock star, which for a country artist back then was a whole different level of cool. And that magnetism wasn't confined to the stage. It spilled over onto the big screen.
Hmm.
He wasn't content with just dipping his toes into
I
Hollywood.
know.
He became a bona fide movie star.
And not just in any roles, but in major films, working with iconic directors.
Let's talk about range. A Star is Born with Barbra Streisand, Pat Garrett, and Billy the Kid, alongside Bob Dylan, Sam Peckinpah's Heaven's Gate. Those are some serious acting credits. I'm particularly drawn to his role in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. He plays this aging gunfighter, Billy the Kid's former friend, who's been hired to track him down.
Interesting choice. That film really captures that duality he could embody so well.
Right.
He could be both the romantic lead and the gritty anti-hero, often within the same character.
It's like he understood the complexities of human nature both on and off the screen. But
Yeah.
but as we dig deeper, we find yet another layer to this intricate individual,
Yeah.
his activism. This wasn't just a guy writing songs. This was someone willing to put himself on the line for what he believed in.
And this wasn't just about lending his name to a cause. He was deeply involved, particularly in Central America.
You can tell from the sources that this wasn't just a passing interest for him.
Right.
He was outspoken in his support for the Sandinista government in Nicaragua, even traveling there multiple times, and was a vocal opponent of U.S. involvement in El Salvador's civil war.
His stance on those issues, it really solidified that outlaw image, would you say? It showed that he was willing to challenge authority, to speak truth to power, even when it was unpopular.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder what drove that unwavering commitment to justice.
It's interesting you draw that parallel between his art and his activism because they both seem to stem from this deep well of empathy.
Yeah.
He wasn't just singing about struggles, right? He was actively trying to make a difference. Mm-hmm.
But as we know, life has a way of throwing curveballs, and for Kristofferson, that came in the form of memory loss.
It's heartbreaking to think about, but even as his memory faded, his connection to music, it remained. It speaks to the power of music when you say how it can transcend even the most profound losses.
Absolutely. The sources mention that he would sometimes walk off stage after a performance and moments later have no recollection of having been up there.
Imagine that. To pour your heart and soul into something only to have it disappear moments later.
Mm.
It's both tragic and beautiful in a way.
It really makes you think about the nature of creativity, of legacy.
Mm.
Even if he couldn't always hold on to the memories, those songs, they were still out there, touching lives, connecting with people on a deeper level.
Yeah.
That's a powerful thing. It is. And it makes you realize that his impact, it extends far beyond just the tangible achievements.
Right.
It's in the way he lived his life, the risks he took, the causes he championed, the raw honesty that he poured into his art.
So as we look back on this incredible life,
Mm.
the songs, the films, the activism, the sheer audacity of it all, what do you think will be his most enduring legacy?
I think it's the inspiration he continues to provide. He showed us that it's okay to defy expectations, to embrace contradictions, to use your voice for what you believe in. He was a reminder that life is meant to be lived on your own terms, even if that means forging your own path.
It makes you wonder, would Kris Kristofferson have become such a legend if he'd stayed on that conventional path? Would those songs have held the same power if they hadn't been forged in the fires of a life less ordinary?
It's an intriguing thought, isn't it? Maybe it was the detours, the unconventional choices, the willingness to embrace the unexpected that truly allowed his artistry to flourish.
Something to ponder, for sure. Kris Kristofferson, a life less ordinary, a legacy that continues to inspire. Thanks for diving deep with us.